G'day, it's Stevic from 12 Ninja here. And look, if you like American football, you should check out Saints Happy Hour podcast. I personally know fuck all about American football, other than it's a bunch of massive blokes wearing spandex, shoulder pads and helmets, running around with throwing a football. In Australia, you don't throw footballs. You punch it or you kick it. And there's no protection. They're all naked, and there's sharks and crocodiles fired out of cannons onto the field, and we all stand around and drink blood watching it. But if American football's your thing, you know what to do. Saints Happy Hour podcast. Stick it in your ear hole.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. This one's on YouTube, as we do every Thursday, to preview the Saints' upcoming game. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, to smash that like button. And if you're listening to the audio-only version, subscribe to Saints Happy Hour, wherever you get your podcast, and go to saintshappyhour.com, become a patron, get some swag, get the best Saints podcast every day, the award-winning Saints podcast, Louisiana Sports Writers Association Podcast of the Year. Andrew, Saints have a huge game Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens. We don't have the injury report yet because it's Monday night, so everything is shifted back a day. I'm going to throw something at you. I think Baltimore is by far the best team the Saints have played in 2022. I know they played Seattle. They have a winning record. They've had a really nice year. Geno Smith, they're 5-3. They're leading the NFC West. And I know Minnesota is 6-1, but I feel like Minnesota is not that good, really. Baltimore, to me, is the best team the Saints have played and present the most unique challenges of so far on the schedule. Is that fair?
I was about to throw a cart of eggs into your face until that last sentence. I do agree that they present a unique challenge, and obviously Lamar Jackson is one of a kind, and he's really difficult to defend because you can kind of do everything right and still lose on a play against him. And that part sucks. It's an uneasy feeling. And, you know, I think a lot of times when they do the zone read stuff, like you got to make a decision. Like, are you going to hedge towards the quarterback running the ball or the running back? And you got to trust your other guys to make a play depending on what decision you make. So it's really tough. But I don't know about the best team. I mean, look, first of all, they're missing some skill position guys. I think that limits what they can do in terms of passing and can help you maybe focus against the run a little bit more. And in their secondary, they've been a mess all year, man. And that was before Marcus Williams got hurt. Is their rookie Hamilton still banged up?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, they're missing some key guys, and their secondary has been a mess. So I think this is like, I'm kind of getting Raiders vibes from you, Ralph. I'm not going to lie. Like, you just, every opponent that the Saints have, you sensationalize them. There's one guy that they got, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Lamar Jackson. Oh, that's the best team the Saints have played. They're so good. Having one good player does not mean you're an amazing team. Like, the Ravens have their issues, man.
They do. Like, they've gagged up a lot of leads.
They have.
The 5-3. I mean, like, they gagged up a 21-point fourth quarter lead against the Dolphins. They gagged up a 10-point lead against the Giants. Like, their fourth quarter issues are very real.
I just don't think they're at home. Crowd should be rocking, should be awesome. And I really don't think this is any different than any other game they've played this year. Don't give it away. Like, don't hemorrhage the football. But you know, if they protect the ball and move the ball like they have been, like, they'll be right. They'll be in it. You know, this is a game that's winnable. So,
yeah, you yelled at me about Andy Dalton is terrible in prime time. He's like one win. He's lost like 6 in a row. Yeah. He's been terrible in prime time. And you railed against me because it's just, and it's a stupid stat because it's just this, at this specific time, this quarterback is terrible. But I
feel like people were saying that about Kirk Cousins, and then he played the Saints and torched them on a primetime game. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, those stats are so dumb because it's such a small sample size. A lot of times those primetime games are divisional matchups. And, like, if you think about Andy Dalton primarily has played in Cincinnati, And I would expect him, if he played Baltimore or Pittsburgh historically, in the years that he was in Cincinnati, those defenses were ridiculous, both of them. So if he was playing those teams in primetime games, of course he sucked. So and to extrapolate what Andy Dalton did with Cincinnati, Chicago, and Dallas, and say that that's somehow like it's like some mental block he has, that it's like somehow different than a Sunday noon kickoff because it's like Monday night or Thursday night, and it's like it gets to him psychologically because everybody's watching, oh my god, like, and somehow like wins and losses are like a QB stat, like it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I hate it so much when they're like, oh yeah, this guy. He struggles in prime time. Like
that is fucking stupid. Yeah. Wake up.
Yeah, like it's the dumbest stat I ever heard. The dude sucks until he doesn't. Like, why not this week?
It's true. Yeah. One interesting thing about Lamar Jackson, and you mentioned,
I heard that Lamar Jackson is terrible in dome stadiums when the kickoff is after 7 p.m. and the temperature outside, even though it doesn't affect the temperature inside, if it's less than 60. And it's like falls on the third week of the month, and he didn't have his breakfast that morning. If all those things, I've heard he's terrible in those games. Yeah, right. I've heard if it's a full moon, I've heard he's god awful in those games. So
I will say this: for the Saints, for this Monday night game, they are doing the greatest giveaway in the history of the franchise. They are reproducing the Dome Patrol poster of the early 90s with the Dome Patrol, the 4 Saints All-Pro linebackers, Pro Bowl All-Pro linebackers. And I'm sad that I can't go to this game now. Like, I am legitimately sad. I want one of those posters.
Ralph, your takes are frequently awful. This is a good take. I don't know if we have a cha-ching, if we have like a ching, like a chime or something, but good job. Dude, there we go. I love that poster. I think it's so cool that the fans are going to get that as they go into the game. And like, if you were on the fence about going, you should go and get that because it's like a iconic thing in Saints history. That picture.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a Saints fan of a certain age, you had that poster.
Oh, yeah.
Period. End.
I don't know where it is now, but I had it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game, Andrew, I want to throw a theory at you. The one sort of thing that teams did to Lamar Jackson that kind of worked, and this was Brian Flores for the Dolphins, is when they played Baltimore, he did an interesting defense where he was just like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to blitz the crap out of Lamar Jackson, and we're going to make him check to a short pass, and we're going to try to tackle. And it worked for them the first time, but it hasn't worked since because Baltimore, they're like, if you blitz and he hits it and you miss a tackle, it's a house call. So it's kind of been shaky since Miami first started it, because Baltimore's kind of figured it out. But if Baltimore goes into this game and they don't have Andrews and they don't have Bateman, and you look at their skill position guys and you're like, not so great. Is that something the Saints would do and be like, listen, we're going to blitz the crap out of Lamar Jackson to make him get rid of the ball? Would that be sort of a way to do it? Or you don't think the Saints, what they've done this year, you don't think that would be on the menu?
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy. I mean, as great as the Raiders game was, I'm not ready to start trusting the Saints tackling, especially if Justin Evans and Tyrann Mathieu are back there. Like and even Alontae Taylor has been a little spotty there. So I would not trust that secondary to make the necessary tackle. And I mean, look, when you're missing guys too, like you don't want to make a team's life any easier. You want to force them to settle for what's in front of them. And so I don't know, like, I lament in some of these losses, the Saints have gotten bit pretty hard by the explosive play, where like they kind of like they could have won the game. Like Carolina was a perfect example where they give up that huge play to Laviska Shenault, and like that game was there for the taking before that play. And and then there were some others, one against Tampa, but like I just feel like the Saints they need to limit those kind of plays, and I just feel like the risk is heightened if you have that kind of strategy. Dennis Allen has never been like Greg Williams. He's never been a reckless blitzer that's just like we're gonna go take it, you know. And I don't know, like as good as this offense has been the last few weeks, I don't know that it's good enough like Greg Williams when in 2009 where he's like, I trust Drew Brees to go score. Like I don't care if we give up a huge touchdown. I don't care if we're in the playoffs and Tim Hightower rips an 80-yard run on the first play of the game. I don't care because, you know, I'm trying to get turnovers. I'm trying to get my offense another possession, and I know they're going to score. So I don't know that we're there with Andy Dalton in the offense. I mean, they're playing really well. I'm not dogging them. But I just think this defense still has to play like sound football. And so I just think you don't want to stress it that way. And I don't think, again, I don't think that's Dennis Allen's MO anyway, to just blitz recklessly. He likes to pick his spots. So it's not that he won't blitz, and I do think there'll be times where he'll get the right setup, get the right situation, and what you're talking about, he will see how Lamar Jackson responds. But I think a lot of times it's setting up the quarterback to expect one thing and then showing them a different wrinkle to surprise them. That's much more Dennis Allen's style than just like relentless blitzing.
What's a guy on defense, because Lamar Jackson is such a unique quarterback and the running threat is so incredible. What's a guy on defense that you're like, he better play well Monday night or the Saints are in big trouble?
I mean, I would say the linebackers, Demario Davis and Pete Werner in particular. I mean, that's good news. I mean, normally when you're counting on those guys to play well, they always deliver. So, but yeah, I think those are the guys that are stressed in terms of their gap discipline, in terms of how they play the read option. How, like, are the Saints going to put a spy on Lamar Jackson, right? And like, still, even then, if you do that, it's hard for Demario Davis and Pete Werner, who are both great sideline to sideline linebackers. They have good speed, good range, but Lamar Jackson can still beat you to the sideline because that's how explosive he is. So, really taking good angles, not taking any false steps. Not that those guys do, but I think that's going to stress them in a way that maybe they haven't been so far this season. I mean, Kyler Murray is maybe a comparable athlete that when you face him, where you're like, you have to prepare for him in a similar way. But Lamar Jackson is on a different level, even than Kyler Murray. So it's tough.
Yeah. And the Ravens offense, another thing to consider is they are sort of the king of the analytics, meaning if there's almost any question about are they going to go, or are they going to punt or kick a field goal, they almost always go for it. So it sort of stresses your defense more, right? Where if you're playing a more conventional team and you're like, okay, it's third and 2 or 3 at the 9, and we stop them, they're going to kick a field goal. Baltimore looks at the analytics and says, you know what? We don't want the freaking field goal. We want the touchdown. So that sort of stresses your defense even more, but it gives you opportunities to swing the game and keep points off the scoreboard.
Yeah, those plays are huge because there's probably going to be 2 or 3 times a game where whoever wins the snap, like that has a profound impact on the game. And, like you talked about, those are 4-point plays.
Yeah, and 4-point plays, and we talk about it on third down. Baltimore, it's going to be third and fourth down, where they get 2 chances to make it a 4-point play, and the Saints do as well. Back to offense, we'll see how much new linebacker Roquan Smith plays against the Saints. On offense, how much do you think, if Landry can get back, how much do you think that helps the Saints on offense? And what do you expect from him? He's been gone so long. What's a fair sort of expectation?
I think Landry is perfect for what this offense is doing. He's not a field stretcher. He's not a guy that, I mean, he can get vertical. He can make good plays downfield, but he's, out route, hook route, hitch route. He's a guy that works the middle of the field and works out of the slot and get you 6 yards here, get you 7 yards there. It'll get you 4 yards on 3rd and 3. And that's kind of Andy Dalton. That's the way he's playing. His offense has been a lot more similar to the dead arm Drew Brees era, except Dalton can actually push the ball down the field a little bit. But I just think Michael Thomas too, they're perfect complements to Olave. And so even if Michael Thomas doesn't play, if Landry's healthy, he can work the middle of the field, keep the defense honest. There's just a lot of plays where Callaway and Traquan, they've made a handful of plays, but then you watch other plays where there's been drops with Callaway, but besides the drops, I think it's just they don't have the separation that Jarvis Landry creates. And here's the thing about Landry is why he gets so open in tight spaces. First of all, he just has a great feel for the game. He knows how to find the soft spot in his zone. He's really good at that. His route running is really good, really precise. Again, he takes quick cuts, even though he's not the fastest player. His route running is really precise where he can create separation that way. And then his upper body strength. If he gets jammed, a lot of those slot corners are not that big. And, when they press coverage, he can create separation just by, hand fighting and right off the jam. He can get open right there, create 2 yards of separation. And then I remember this from watching his tape when the Saints signed him. His ability to catch the ball in traffic is incredible. He like Michael Thomas, he's one of those guys where he doesn't have to be that open. You can throw him the 50-50 ball and he will get it. And so I just feel then it becomes a question of how much confidence does Andy Dalton have in him, how much trust? Because we're seeing it with Olave now, where Andy Dalton's he's throwing the ball out of the break. Even if the corner's right there on him, he's trusting. He's Olave's going to create separation based on this cut alone. And so I'm going to throw it to this spot, and he's going to go get it. And so you're starting to see Andy Dalton throw like Drew Brees did with anticipation, throwing guys open out of their breaks, not having to see it, which Jameis Winston never really does. So, and Taysom Hill certainly never did. So that's a wrinkle that I've really appreciated. And I just think, I don't know if it's going to happen this week because they haven't played much together. I know they had a lot of time together in camp and preseason, but we'll see how long it takes for them to get to that comfort level. But if he can get to a place with Landry that he's at with Olave, where he's kind of throwing him open, throwing the 50-50 balls and trusting him to make those plays, Landry will make them.
Yeah. Thing with Andy Dalton is, to me, he's given you kind of the best of what he gave you at Cincinnati. Now, you can argue, well, at Cincinnati, he wasn't that good or whatever, but he looks not so much different from Andy Dalton of 7 years ago, 8 years ago, which I think is good for the Saints in that he makes the throws and he's still Andy Dalton. So he has a couple of those plays that make you want to throw something at your TV. But I mean, thank goodness the Saints decided to get him. I mean, can you imagine if they had a backup quarterback in the tier lower, like a Simeon, even, or that quality of backup? They'd be in a lot worse shape.
I think it's the best case scenario how he's playing. Honestly, I don't know that Andy Dalton, in my wildest dreams, I would have ever expected him to play better than he's playing right now. I mean, it's the best case scenario. No Michael Thomas, no Jarvis Landry. He's been doing all this with the Callaway. Basically, they're Olave, right? So, but one game he didn't have Olave.
Yes, right.
He was basically rolling with the Saints receiving crew of last year.
That's right.
And so, like I said, it's a best case scenario. At some point, I'm not ready to do it yet. If he plays well on Monday night and the Saints beat the Ravens, he plays well enough to help them win that game. I think then I owe him an apology. And I've been kind of going week to week with this. And look, Dennis Allen says Jameis Winston is healthy. Other people dispute that on Twitter. Obviously still banged up, right? He's still dealing with the foot and the back. And to what degree, is he healthy enough to be effective at this point because all guys are banged up. So it's just like, has he turned a corner? We know it's probably going to be all year. He's not going to be 100%, but has he turned a corner physically where he could play well? Dennis Allen says yes. That's what he's saying. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but at the end of the day, I believe Andy Dalton continues to play not because of Jameis Winston's health. Andy Dalton continues to play because he's playing well, and he deserves credit for that. And I'm not ready to say, like, let's turn the keys to him, like he's the starter for the rest of the year, done. But, like, I'm also not clamoring for him to be replaced until he plays poorly, and that really hasn't happened yet. He's played well, and he deserves credit for that. And I'm probably, Ralph, one game away. Like, if they beat the Ravens and he plays well against the Ravens, then, like, I've probably seen enough to where I would say, yeah, like I'm ready to say, like, Andy Dalton's our guy for this year. The rest of the season. And I will say this, though. I mean, as much as, like, if that announcement was made, like, yeah, Andy Dalton's our quarterback, Jameis is the backup, I still feel like we're on a collision course for, like, I don't feel like Jameis's chapter in New Orleans is completely done. Like, I don't think he'll ever be the starter again long term, like after this year. But Andy Dalton's 35. Like, eventually he's going to take a hit. Like, he's going to get, I mean, like, there's 9 games left. Like, he could get knocked out of a game. And I just have this suspicion, this feeling
Jameis
at some point Jameis is going to get his shot again.
I mean,
And
listen,
so
you never know.
Ready.
All it takes is, like you saw with Drew Brees, you hit your hand on a helmet, and you like Dak, you break your finger, whatever. I mean, Jameis could easy come back, and it could be an issue where, like, it's a concussion, and it's Jameis. Oh, you got to play 3 quarters. You know, it might not be a long term thing, but we'll see.
I don't really see a point in, like, committing, because it's like, I like going week to week, because it's like, if Andy Dalton plays terrible or all of a sudden he's nicked up because something happened,
That's
like,
right.
would that tip the scales to where you're ready to go back to Jameis? But I just think right now the offense is executing. They're playing at a high level. Do not mess with that. I don't care if Jameis is healthy. You do not mess with that. So, like, I may change my tune next week. Like, I don't want anyone coming at me being like, yo, you said Andy Dalton, now you changed your opinion. Yeah, I changed. We all have the right to change our opinions. But right now, like, there's no way you can make a switch. And that's because
Yeah. Final question, then we're going to get out of here. No Ingram for a month. So you got Dwayne Washington, Jordan Howard. What is a realistic...
Don't forget the funk. Bring the funk, Ralph.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jake Funk. What is a realistic best case scenario for running plays that aren't Alvin Kamara? Like, what's an expectation where you say, this is something that we should hope for that's reasonable?
Running plays with Taysom Hill. No, I look, I think the volume for those two, like, they're riding those guys, and to me, like, 10 touches for Taysom, it feels like a heavy workload for a guy that's been injured a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to get him down to 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want 30 touches for Kamara. I'd love to keep that to around 20, honestly, to try to manage those guys. And so then you probably do have, like, 7 touches that need to go somewhere else. And maybe you throw a couple more times, Jarvis Landry coming back. Maybe, it's obviously, it's always matchup dependent. You might have some team where you're like, yeah, we can really expose their secondary, and you throw a lot. And there might be some times where, like, we're going to run the ball down their throat, and it's matchup dependent. To me, Baltimore's probably a team you attack aerially a little bit more. Like, you might throw the football a little bit more than you did previous weeks. But yeah, I think the first guy up, let's see what Jordan Howard has. I think he's still a good player. I think he can contribute to this offense. And if you give him 5 to 6 touches, like, start there. Let's see what he does with those. And if he's a disaster, then you kind of go back to, like, Tony Jones, like, yeah, you're getting 3 touches. You're our backup, but, like, we don't trust you. And if it's pretty good, like, maybe he works his way up to 10 touches like Mark Ingram.
Yeah. Give me 6 touches, 24 yards.
Yeah.
Get me
the ideal scenario though is Washington is not touching the football. Like, no offense to that dude, but like Jordan Howard needs to be a better back than Washington.
That's
like
right.
That's the line.
If Dwayne Washington's getting the carries, it's a bad situation. So
28 yards on 3 touches.
What did you say? 28 yards on 3 touches?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would love that.
You know what that'll be? That'll be 1 25-yard runs and 2 1.5-yard runs. But we'll take it.
Well, the jokes would be good. So
yeah.
3 catches for 28 yards, 3 runs for 20.
We need a funk run so we can just go nuts on Twitter. Saints Twitter can just make
dumps the funk. I feel like that's a nickname waiting to happen.
9,000 funk jokes. We need it. Guys, thanks for joining us. Pound that like button, pound that subscribe button for the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this podcast, audio only version, subscribe, Saints Happy Hour, wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you Monday night after the Saints Ravens.
Yeah.